Hey, Cliff, I wrote a song about you.
That kind of shit embarrasses the hell out of me.
Well, I know if somebody did that, if somebody did that to me, I would be real queasy about it. I'd be like, don't, but it's fun. It is actually kind of cool. I think.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Dick. Let me sneak up on it, okay? When I'm sure I can take it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna not tell you and then just put it out because I would respect if you saw it and said, oh no.
No. Hey, no, hey, dude. I don't censor. You want to put it out? My feelings are my feelings, and I'll react as I react. But I can't censor what the hell you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
well,
wouldn't believe the shit people say about me. So you go right
no,
ahead.
this is complimentary. I'll tell you how this came about. Um, when I met Bix Weir, we picked up some guitars and we started playing. And he's a very good musician. And he wrote that Litecoin song. And at the Litecoin Summit, we played it together. And he's putting that out. So, and he tells me he's writing other crypto songs. So I thought I should write a crypto song. So I'm plunking around on my guitar, and I'm of the belief that you don't really create something, you just go to another place and bring it back, that it already exists. So I'm sitting there with my guitar and I'm strumming a chord, and I think Cliff High. Why I should write a song about Cliff High. Why am I thinking that? So, excuse me.
I'm just like a bad rash that won't go away.
So what happens is high is high, yeah. And yeah. Woo woo. So when you
damn, I hadn't thought of that.
So it took me like 3 days to think, should it be Cliff High, woo woo, or should it be woo woo, Cliff? There was this resolution I needed, and I was going back and forth. So anyway,
the creative process.
You'll be highly amused when you see it. And cool. The cool thing was I recorded it, and Jason played drums for me. And so I have this thing all done, and I went to Waikiki and took lights, and I took a sound system and a camera and a cameraman, and I'm all set up with a big production, and I'm there, and people are coming by like they recognize me, and they're like taking video of it. So I'm doing this take, and some cute little kid dashes behind me on this wall over the ocean, and I just noticed him, and I react, and you'll see it. It's pretty fun. So
cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll put that out pretty soon. So I wanted to have just a short conversation. I think we can wrap this up in like 12 minutes.
Sure.
I'm being facetious. Who runs the world? Do you believe there is an overriding authority that is running this place? Why do you think that? And what do you think about it? So those are kind of the ideas that I want to explore, like people that take the red pill realize, the Federal Reserve is privately run, and the president doesn't really run things, and there are good guys behind the scene that are going to take over, and they're going to get rid of all the bad guys and the pedophiles. And I think it's at layers and levels much higher than that, and ultimately may go off planet. So we can go off on a really bizarre discussion. What's your thought about is this world run by somebody?
I believe that to be the case. Okay, I believe it has indeed been organized as though that is the case. We could postulate that it was done so. Someone came down from space, came up out of the middle of the earth or whatever the hell, and created way the hell back when the structure we're under, and then that person died or left. And we're just silly enough humans to keep on with what had been impressed on us. We could postulate that. But let's look at, first let me state my bias. because I was born into a military family. Okay, so I'm an Army brat. So I've been inculcated into the idea of organizations in a particular way. And I've seen organizations in a particular way throughout the formative years of my life and made certain conclusions based on seeing everything from inside the military as I was shuffled all over the planet following my father, right? And so I know some things for an absolute fact. And I know that at a certain level, from a certain level down, it's all single individual making the decision, and that a single individual counts, and that the single individual is both responsible for that decision and liable for it, okay? And we see this in like military units. The individual soldier has a certain level of responsibility that is laid on them, and they can make decisions within that paradigm. But the person that really controls everything is the corporal for that particular unit, or the lieutenant, or so on. And that is true all the way up the command chain, where you've got a general in a wartime situation, and he makes a single decision, and stuff happens. So at that level, we're dealing with pyramids. And that pyramid shape changes as you go down the command structure to where you got a lieutenant, he's got a couple of companies under him, you got a couple of staff sergeants, and each in charge at a particular level where when it comes down to it, they can make a decision and stuff happens. But something happens, something changes as you go up the command structures. Now, I've also worked for corporations, and the corporations are modeled very similarly to the military. Attempts in corporations to do otherwise have usually resulted, in our experience, in failures of those corporations more rapidly than might otherwise be the case. So there was a big flurry of corporate redesign in the 1800s, and then in the 1950s, I think, here in the US, in which different models of organization were tried, and those corporations collapsed reasonably fast and were very wasteful. So it turns out this pyramid structure was reasonably effective. Nowadays, by the way, just as an aside, the blockchain is like cutting out a lot of the redundancies that are inherent in that, making us much more efficient. But that's an aside. Okay, so as you go up organizational structures, you'll notice something, that the higher up you go, the more likely you're to encounter supervision by a committee. This is especially true in corporations, and this is especially true in corporations that are dealing with each other over a common something where they both want to benefit from it and have to share ownership of it. Committees form. And individuals may be tasked with a subset pyramid and be told to go off and do things, but it's the committees that are directing a bunch of these people that are on top of these little pyramids. And that committee structure at some point takes over. And then it's committee reporting to committee, reporting to committee, reporting to committee, with each of the committee people being able to be delegated tasks and areas of responsibility that are basically temporary. And those are taken back because ownership of all of that responsibility is held, and accountability is held at the committee level as opposed to the individual's neck, right? You get a lieutenant, he makes a screw up, his company gets killed, he's on the ringer. But at a committee level, responsibility becomes more diffuse. Okay, this is true as we go up the chain, and then it flips again. And we notice that even in corporations, the committees dissolve and they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you get up to the guy on top. All right. And so especially in a corporation, and a very successful corporation, the guy on top makes a decision, tells one or two people that work under him, they instruct committees, and hundreds and potentially thousands of people are instructed what to do. And so it's the one guy making the decision as opposed to trying to form a consensus or a group think in the committee layers. We know that this is true in terms of the flip of the committee back to a structure of a pyramid again, because we can track down money. And we see that there's 8 individuals that claim to own half of all the monetary resources on the planet. They claim to own more of those monetary resources than all of the aggregated non-corporate individuals on the planet. These 8 individuals do, and they're controlled by one guy, and it goes up and up. No one knows how rich the Rothschilds are, but they're the only multiple trillionaires on the planet. And so we could presume that whoever rules the planet is within the Rothschild family structure, and that person is, it doesn't make any difference to me who it is. I'm not, going to single out any individual or anything, but it can be seen just by tracking down, who owns the money and who owns the most of the stuff. And you find out that that's the Rothschild family. This is not an accident. This was engineered and designed and so on. Now, the other questions that you get into from that point on get really damn tricky. Okay, the woo-woo stuff, right? Because you know that the Germans were convinced that the true ruler of the world was under a mountain somewhere, a live alien being who was a long-lived Elohim or Anunnaki. They sent expeditions to the Himalayas and into Nepal and Tibet, that among other things, they were gathering archaeology stuff, but they were actually looking for a particular entrance into this guy's house. The curious part of all of this is that a joint expedition that had some members from the Vatican and a bunch of Germans disappeared reputedly in a cave structure that was on the western side of Kilimanjaro. And that one of them came out after some months and then died close to the mountain. And that was the only thing that was ever heard of this rather large expedition. And that part's true. I mean, you can actually track down bills of lading and camels being purchased, all of this kind of thing. And then poof, there's just no other records.
Yeah. Then you get to other levels of, how did we get here? Did we evolve from apes, or was there some genetic manipulation, DNA manipulation by aliens? How many civilizations have there been here on Earth? Okay, I've remote viewed several of them. And there's record of them. I mean, our whole history is
bullshit.
Ain't true.
Yeah, dude, it's bullshit. There's no getting around that.
Yeah,
this is what really pisses me off frequently, right? Is that you can't make good decisions with bad data. And you can't make good decisions with a paradigm that's been structured for you that has very, very, very tenuous connections to reality. So lots of our decisions are absolutely terrible for us, and we don't have a clue as to why this is occurring, but it's because the paradigm we're operating in is not reflecting in the reality at all. And I'm with you. There's been at least 6 civilizations on this planet, and maybe a dozen.
Yeah. So the paradigm that we're in, though, it's by design. I mean, we're kept in that box by design, by our keepers then. And that gets to why they're not going to tell us the truth about alien contact, because, oh yeah, well, there's some aliens and they're a little bit more advanced than us. And oh, by the way, they created us, and we're their science fair project. And they do new science fair projects every few thousand years. They just wipe it clean and then bring out a new version.
Okay, now that part is not connected, okay, in my opinion, right? What happens every few thousand years is as an irregular object out in the Kuiper belt around, and Saturn's pole flings in a bunch of comets and stuff at us, and boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Okay, but that has nothing, that's not engineered, in my opinion. There's simply an irregular orbit issue that goes on that is we're going to encounter for decreasingly over time. However, I would buy certain things up to that point. But let me point out something. Another way to, okay, so all humans get together collectively, we start talking to each other, and whoever is the Elohim then say to themselves, hey, these humans are getting out of control. So, and look what they're trying to do. They're trying to emulate us. So let us inflict upon them multiplicity of language so that they can't communicate and can't be collected. The whole Tower of Babel thing, right?
Mhm.
Well, so humans then come along and we get beyond the Tower of Babel punishment that was put on us for getting uppity. You know, those damn slaves be uppity again. And then we start getting technologically advanced, starting to think we know a few things. And so what do? They come on down and they start with our paradigm, so that we're now operating in a very amorphous kind of a thing where we're just not sure of reality, and we've got conflicting energies through the social order that are preventing us from consolidating and solidifying a common paradigm under which we can operate. Now, a lot of this is our own fault, right? Because we need a collective paradigm to hunker around in order for a culture to be cohesive. And so, but at the same time, I think we're being messed with.
Yeah, and that gets to the question of technology. Technology is now keeping us, we're spinning our tails a lot. I know I am, and I talk with a lot of intelligent people who can't read books anymore. Do you read books, Cliff? Do you still read? You do?
Yeah, I've got no, I understand what you're talking about. You're talking about the cognitive thing. You can only look at screens.
Yeah, I read books, but it takes it's not as easy as it used to be. I was a voracious reader, and I have to settle into it. I get impatient, and once you get your mind right, then you can read for a while. But it's
okay. But see, I'm a little twisted in that regard too, because I invented this software that allowed me to read from computers very, very rapidly, up to 2,000 words per minute, and I used that for a number of years. So who knows what it's done for my cognitive ability relative to this? But I also know that just the other day, I was watching Joe Rogan, the Sober October wrap up, right? And Ari, somebody in there, was commenting and had apparently been pushing the four individuals in this video about the idea of cognitive impact of of the digital devices. And I agree with him. When I was in the phone industry, and you know, we're talking back before most of the world was born, but cell phones were cranking out, and I worked on a number of projects for European phone companies, including Nokia. And all of these projects ended up pointing to very negative effects from the exposure to the phones. I don't use mine, well, I'm way the hell out anyway, and no one wants to talk to me. But I don't use mine for communication, so I don't have that kind of interference with it. But it still is going to affect you with the way in which your brain starts thinking about things, you know, the blue light dominating over all the others and so on.
Well, okay, here's a thought. Let's say if we had planet Earth that was in its pristine environment with no technology but all the resources, like the most advanced thing you had was fire, okay, but not even a wheel. But we had our knowledge. How long would it take to recreate our technology from scratch if you had the knowledge, but only the resources? And I guess that would require some level of governance and
I don't know about the governance. You could postulate that if we were suddenly all, you know, poof, and all of our existing technology was taken away from us, and we're all left with grass skirts and a match, I would say less than 2 generations, okay? Because we wouldn't have to recreate the wheel, right? There's a whole lot of things we did for years that we had to do because we didn't have any further advanced knowledge. Our big issue would be machine tools, because you have to have machine tools that are harder than the steel you want to create in order to be able to do mass production and stuff. But that I think, you know, I mean, it's reasonably easy to smelt iron and start doing steel and so on. It'd be crude, but I think it would spread in 2 generations and we'd be back up on, we wouldn't be creating cell phones, but.
Yeah, well, okay. So is all this technology being seeded to us? Or I believe so. Yeah.
We're okay, but there's another way to look at that too. Okay, and the most effective way I've seen to look at that is cargo cult, right? Okay, whether or not it's being seeded, and this, if we think about it as a cargo cult, then it eliminates the trying to answer the question of why, of whose intent is it to do what, and so on. And we can look at actually what's going on and propagate out ideas from that. And then we're free to backtrack to try and figure out the whys, but those have always eluded me. Okay, but if we imagined ourselves to be like the cargo cults, the spaceship comes down, we snag off a device, we love that device, and the spaceship comes back and we snag the spaceship and get a chunk of stuff from it, and we become addicted to the technology, we can look at it as though it does not matter whether or not we shot down the spaceship, whether we still have it. We had a brief interaction with an alien technology from which we've taken a number of items that we've now fed into our social order. So what would occur next, even if those spaceships never ever came back and we never ever got any other new technology?
It's a jump start. We've jump started something. So it sparked that. Oh, what's next? And you can make the leap if you get to this point. The next leap is much easier than starting from nothing.
Okay, and then here's the thing. If you look, okay, so for a long time in military circles, there was discussion about transistors and how powerful the transistors and the printed circuit boards and the microchips and everything was making individual countries, militaries that happen to have this technology. And then that technology spreads and we get some other stuff and we start putting in fiber optic and everything. But the main technology that changed the planet was the ability to communicate as we are now. In spite of the fact that we've actually may have lowered our individual cognitive ability with old technology, which I'll explain to a second why I think that's the case. So bring me back to reading. But anyway, so talking back and forth like this is the primary species level change. Okay, it actually is causing epigenetic changes in all of us. Some people are just getting addicted to the technology, but nonetheless, we have a combination of ideas now that has a momentum of its own, a value of its own, where you've got, you know, not groupthink, but five minds inventing together, a sort of brainstorming kind of thing, right? And the ability to test and all of that sort of deal. You can really start kicking ass very rapidly. Because imagine how long it would take us to have a conversation about any given item if we were reduced to the old days of having to write it down and mail it, or even phones.
Yeah, so you can have the 100th monkey effect every 5 minutes.
Well, let's leave that aside. The 100 monkey thing is a hoax. Okay, it never occurred. It was a misinterpretation of data. What I'm saying is we can have a comment, and that relies on the idea and throws people back to the idea that there's some kind of magical effect. What I'm talking about is basically the ability to collectively contribute to a combinoric effort, where we'll each take stuff out, but the greater whole will grow because we were there participating. Now, let's examine the reading issue for a minute, okay? One of the things that my software did was to take, and the reason I no longer support it was because at the time that I wrote this stuff, it was possible as a software engineer to write in C, and which is a language, and as we say in the trade, to reach down, touch the metal. And what I was doing was I was actually causing the refresh rate on the old style monitors to alter for the duration of running my program, such that I had control over the actual display at a level that's not possible with modern operating systems. However, I did this as a way of getting around the saccadic eye movements. Okay, so the saccadic eye movements are these things you learn as you learn to read from reflected image substances. Those saccadic eye the saccades are these little tiny muscles that move your eyes around. Those kind of muscles, or those kind of saccadic eye movements, are not required from an irradiated screen that's beaming the stuff to you, where the text itself is movable and can shift and stuff. The saccadic eye movements change radically. So you actually have to retrain the brain to recontrol the eye muscles to get back to reading the old way in order to feel that level of comfort that you used to find. But then when you switch back to irradiated surface reading, you're going to have to use the new way in which the saccades don't move the same kind of medial muscle movements the same way. So it's a body deal, right? It's like you haven't thrown a baseball for oh man, your arm gets sore, you know, et cetera, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. It took me a while to switch to electronic screens for reading, but yeah, I do know people though that just don't read books anymore because they're so addicted to fast, you know, something that's just.
That's my problem, okay? Because I usually read technical manuals. So you know, I'm reading big books on programming and stuff, right? And it's so much easier to get a PDF there and jump to those things that I want to see right at that point, as opposed to having to tediously flip my way through to find what I really need to reference. Now, on the other hand, I read, you know, little books that are packed with stuff. And those I can really concentrate on. But they also require that you just read a little bit, stop, and really think about it for a few days.
Yeah. Yeah. I read at night. I turn my computer off at a certain point and I grab a book on a Kindle. But yeah, I still read books. But yeah, there's YouTube videos. You can get caught up in YouTube videos and take you to one. I mean, it's designed that way. Oh, you'll be interested in this.
Yeah. I work with the people that designed that stuff, and they were working with people that were measuring dopamine levels.
Yeah. And back to your committees. So you have individuals that are making decisions within a framework of their free will, but within a framework of they know they're in an organization.
Constraints.
What shocked me, and I learned this as a result of my remote viewing, somebody that reached out to me, was that, well, it makes sense. I just never thought about it. If you have all the money in the world, you can hire as many people as you need to go influence every damn channel on YouTube. And you can influence a YouTube channel by likes, by advertisement. If someone is concerned with how much advertising how many hits they get, if they go in one direction that the controllers want, they can give them positive reinforcement and it will steer them that way. And actually, I think there are people that are working for higher authorities that just go around and like there's thousands of them.
I wouldn't know how many there would be, but I'm quite certain there's the invisible hand. I mean, we have people going all the way back to the early 1900s that report this, even in the social order then. And it's curious when you look at, for instance, YouTube personalities that you follow over time because you find that there's some little quirk in them that appeals to you or whatever. And then they hover around 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers, and then they start getting big, right? And there may be one event, maybe a premier YouTuber interviews with them or something, and it moves back and and then so you can see it's being guided, it's actually being directed. And some of these individuals that you can look at, you can say, why that person? And I can also say I'm curious as to whether this individual will be able to handle being promoted that way. But now I know that this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but we actually have demonstrable evidence of this throughout history. And in my history, that also includes what the CIA did in Vietnam, where they had buckets, tremendous briefcases full of money. And they went to Vietnam and tried to influence the war by promoting certain individuals, putting money into certain areas and so on. And, they failed miserably, but it was well known that it was going on at the time. And there's no reason to suppose, I mean, it's like these days we all be Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No reason to suppose CIA isn't doing it, you know, and so, or whoever, right? And so, and it can be very subtle, but extremely powerful because they just don't care about the money aspect of it.
They got all the money in the world.
Right, right.
They make it.
Right, exactly. And it's meaningless to them and so on. And here's the thing too. There are people that are influenced by power. There are people that, you know, lust after the money more than the stuff that it will buy. There's people that like the influence, you know, there's all different kinds of sociopaths and psychopaths out there, and they will be influenced by this. They're a subset of our social order that won't go away. We need to recognize that corruption is endemic in our history as humanity, no matter how long that might be.
Yeah.
And so we should be adults about how this stuff is dealt with, and encapsulating it into our personal story and paradigm of the world we live in. And I find it reprehensible as the kind of individual I am, that the powers that be are, you know, steal from me, okay, fine, it's my lookout if they steal from me, right? Any of this kind of stuff. But to deny me the access to the information, that's what really pisses me off. And that's the level that has to work in order for this stuff to work, because, you know, raspy bastards like myself with nothing better to do are going to poke and pry, especially if you give us a little point of entry.
Yeah. Well, we are able to, you know, I don't know, you and I, we have a pretty good life. I mean, we're able to explore these things, and I have a comfortable life, and I get to talk with you about this. And I've discovered some things through remote viewing, and a lot of it is out in, you know, what I think they put it out there on the record, so it's hidden in plain sight. And people are the people that are really in the dark, they just don't go find it. There's a lot that you and I can go find out on our own.
Oh, tons of stuff. Yeah, no question. Yeah. And you're gonna. I also look at it as another way, and that is, you know, writing history's shockwaves. Okay, so yeah, I have a very comfortable life because I was able to see certain trends developing early, and was able to see that those trends were going to ultimately be supported by the hidden hand in its pushing of our power structure. So that's how early I was able to see these things. Before, I mean, I knew it would be impressed on the power structure long before the power structure even knew it existed.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff works, though.
Yeah. So that brings us to the ta-da moment, which would be cryptocurrency, because that's the next big thing. I think, and I've been told, that the administrators of this place are, and you alluded to this when you talked about how technology is eliminating certain levels of committees. They're going to eliminate a whole level of bureaucracy of clerks and record keepers and people that write contracts and file contracts, because it's all going to be on the blockchain. So if you work for the DMV, better find a new job. If you're filing, you know, somebody's license for whatever, you know.
Yeah, robots are coming to a workplace near you, even if it just is going to be, you know, PC and or a little kiosk with a place where you can just interface. Yeah, but you know, here's the thing: we know that right now, 1 out of 3 central banks on this planet, and every country on this planet except for like North Korea is, you know, got a central bank. 1 out of 3 central banks are developing some form of a cryptocurrency. So back before these things became evident in 2005, there were hints within the data sets that suggested that whatever the hell was developing, and I didn't know it was going to be cryptocurrencies, but that whatever the hell was developing was going to be a replacement system. And this replacement system, at the time that the cryptocurrencies came along and it became able to be identified, I was getting data sets that were suggesting that cryptocurrency was going to be used at a sovereign level to settle giant, great, whopping amounts of oil debt and this kind of stuff, right? And so now history is actually reaching to that point in manifesting the pathway by which that will occur. And because it's technology, because it's basically software is now eating money the way it ate telecommunications, the way it ate light control systems, the way it ate stoplights and all of these other things. And now it's eating money. We can actually predict how fast it will be before this occurrence happens. And so we'll be at the very early stages of it in like the early 2020s. And so it can be seen that the emotional projections that came along with that could be replicating the flapper days of the 1920s with the easy money flowing because there was new technology, the end of a war. The central bank had started flooding the place with liquidity, and the stock market had reopened. It was closed for some time, and all of this kind of stuff. And it created a certain frothy mood for a large number of years within the populace. And we're now in an echo of that will be based on cryptocurrencies as we make this transition to crypto out of the dying fiat. And look right now how many, quote, stable coins exist, where someone has deliberately created a fiat, a coin that's going to be tied to a fiat currency. Ultimately, they'll let the fiat wither and they'll just have that coin. That's the plan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm in on it. Okay, that's why we like cryptos. Thanks, Clif. That was an interesting conversation. I'll send you my song pretty soon.
Okay.
I think it's complimentary. It's not sappy. I think it's actually, I played it for a couple people and it's not bad. So
cool. Cool. I look forward to it.
It's at least fun. It'll make you smile. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I need some of that. I've got just finished my trench though, so that's kind of cool. So
you were digging a trench. That's what you're doing with a backhoe.
Right. I got a trench out from an outbuilding over to the greenhouse to provide utilities, electricity and water and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Fun days. Yep.
We're busy. All right. Thanks, Clif. Always good to.
All right. I'm waving out to the west. The Earth is flat. You look to the east, and you'll see me.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it would be southwest from you.
Oh, that's right. That's true. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm not quite off the coast of. I'm actually on the same latitude as Mexico.
Yeah, sure. That would fit. Yeah, you're at 19.5 something. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. See, that's well, we need to talk about tetrahedrons later. I've got to go and do a few things. So
yeah. All right. It's always nice to talk with you. Thanks for taking time with me.
Sure. Right. No worries.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Clif. Always interesting to have a conversation with Clif High. You never know exactly where it's going to lead you. So Clif takes this as high as the Rothschilds, and I believe that to be true, partially. According to my friend Michael in Europe, the Rothschilds were given permission to oversee the financial aspects of this planet. That leads us to the question, who gave the Rothschilds permission? Who's above them? Who else runs other aspects of our society, in our world? Well, I'm going to be doing a conversation with Michael in Europe in the next day or so, responding to this video and looking at those questions. Who's ultimately in control? And what does that mean? How does that relate to cryptos? So stay tuned for part 2 of this conversation. We'll get that up in a couple of days. Aloha from Hawaii.